Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for coming along to our secondary applicant event this afternoon. And I hope everyone is managing to keep cool. It is a very warm week and another warm day today, so it's lovely to see so many of you joining us for this this event today. So as Amy was talking about just there, we are today hopefully going to talk to you as applicants for our secondary education teacher training courses starting in September. So my hope is that everybody, or at least the majority of people in the room, should already be holding an offer, either a firm offer or an unconditional firm offer or a conditional firm offer, onto one of our secondary education teacher training courses in September. If any of you are in the room that are not currently holding an offer on this, but you are perhaps in the system, you are expecting to hopefully maybe have an interview with us, you are very welcome to stay and listen to the information. However, what the information that I'm going to give today is going to be largely geared towards people who are definitely going to be starting with us in September. So as I say, if that doesn't apply to you at the moment, some of the information may be quite useful, but please do feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go. But for everybody else that is here, the first thing that I would like to sort of say to you is congratulations. If you have been offered to train with us starting in September, I'm really delighted that that's happened. I'm going to start with a couple of introductions in just a moment, but as I said earlier on, it is really lovely to see you, and hopefully today will give you quite a lot of information that you might have questions about as we head towards September. So firstly, I'm going to introduce myself to you all, and I'm sure some of you in the room, I've been scanning down the names of people who have joined the room today already, and I do recognise a few of the names on the list. So some of you may already know me. My name's Greg Shelton. I am the current interim PGCE secondary programme lead, and as well as that, I'm also the subject lead for secondary art and design and secondary design technology. And another one of my capacities at the moment is that I'm also the pre-ITE recruitment lead. So I am quite involved with a lot of the sort of the pre-course and recruitment processes that we have here in the secondary education team. I've also popped my email address and my direct telephone number on that slide. Please do feel free to note that down. If when we get to the end of today's session, if there is something that you really wanted to ask that you haven't yet had the chance to do so, or you didn't feel it was the right forum to do so, but you would actually like an answer to the question, please do drop me an email. It's the best way to get hold of me at the moment is via an email, but please do send me an email, and either I will come back to you with an answer, or I will forward it to one of my colleagues, a few of whom are in the room as well, who I'm going to introduce in just a second. But please do take a note of my contact details there, in case there's anything that you want to ask, but you don't feel that this is the right place to ask it. And I can understand why that might be the case. I'd just like to introduce two colleagues that are with us this afternoon. And again, for those of you that have applied for the subject, you will hopefully recognize my colleagues in the room. So the first person on my list is the person directly below me in the thumbnails, and that's Bill Myers. Bill is the subject lead for secondary psychology and secondary social science. So anybody that has applied for one of those courses, Bill is here today, and I'm really delighted that he is. And then the other person I'd like to introduce is Debbie Haynes, and Debbie Haynes is the subject lead for secondary English. And so anybody that has applied for a secondary English course will hopefully know Debbie. You also may know Debbie if you've applied for secondary drama. That might also be a familiar face to anybody that is coming in to study drama, because Debbie was very kindly looking after our drama subject area for a time earlier in this year, as well as English. So those are the two colleagues, as well as myself, who are here. Unfortunately, there aren't able to be any of our other secondary colleagues at the moment, because quite a lot of our colleagues are on either annual leave or holiday or study leave. And as you can imagine, this is quite a busy time of the year for those kind of activities taking place. But I'm so pleased that Bill and Debbie are here to join us today. So we will move on with some information, and I'll tell you a little bit as well about the format of this evening's event. I've done my introductions already. Amy as well is our host today, our meeting host, and that's who you met at the very start of the meeting. So the format of how today is going to run is that I've got various bits and pieces of information that you could all benefit from hearing. So I'm going to run through various things over the next sort of 30 minutes or so. Once I get to the end of the things that I've got to say, we will then have the opportunity for anybody that is PGCE, psychology or social science, will be able to go to a breakout room with Bill, and you'll be able to have a little bit of a conversation and a meeting between you with your subject lead, and the same for the English trainees. So anybody that is studying PGCE English, or even if you're here for undergraduate English as well, anybody that is here for either of those courses, you will also be able to go into a breakout room with Debbie, and you will be able to do something very similar, have a bit of a conversation. Debbie can have a chat with you all. Anybody that isn't in any of those 2 or 3 subjects, you will be able to stay in the main room. And what I will be doing whilst the 2 breakout rooms are going on is I will be hosting a bit of a general question and answer session. So I'll be able to take questions in the chat, and I'll hopefully be able to address those as we go. And what we will do is we will run the meeting until it reaches a natural conclusion. I don't want anyone to feel that they haven't got the chance to ask any questions they might have, but I certainly won't string the event out until sort of gone 6 o'clock. If there are no further questions, we will bring it to a very natural conclusion at a certain point. So hopefully that sounds okay with everybody, and we will now move on with some information. So this is the sort of the main agenda items that I'm going to kind of cover in this this talk. Now, the idea here is that you have probably got quite a lot of information already about the course that you've selected. You've applied, you've been interviewed, you've been offered a place, you've accepted that place. So you will have done quite a lot of research already about your course. So I won't be dwelling too much on those kind of aspects of things. However, I do want to talk a little bit about things like fees and finances. I want to talk about meeting conditions. I also want to talk a little bit about your DBS applications, disclosure and barring service forms. So I want to talk about that. Occupational health is something else I want to discuss. I'm going to go into a little bit of depth about your school attachments and how those work and how we allocate those, and what we do in terms of attaching you to a school. And then I just want to talk briefly about the study time and holidays and what to bear in mind. Once we've covered all of that, I'm then going to talk a little bit about pre-course tasks and the kinds of things that we're going to want from you between now and your course starting in September. Okay, so that will sort of bring my section of things to a conclusion once I've talked about the pre-course tasks. And then we will, at that point, we will be able to break into those 2 breakout rooms, and we'll also be able to start the general question and answer session in the main room. Okay, so just while we're going to kick off here, I just want to talk briefly about the course fees, because this is something that I often get a question about whenever I'm doing various marketing events, is how do the fees and the finances work? So I want to just make the distinction first of all between course fees and bursaries. because there are two different things at play here that we just need to make sure people are aware of. So for people who are studying a PGCE or a school direct tuition PGCE, a tuition fee applies to those courses. So for the vast majority of people that are coming into teacher training, tuition fees do apply. And those tuition fees are currently £9,250 for the year. And so therefore, if you haven't already made an application to student finance, if that is how you are intending on funding those tuition fees, probably now would be a good time to start one. I certainly wouldn't be advocating leaving this until like the week before the course starts, because unfortunately Student Finance England tend to get a bit overrun at these key moments of the year. So I would hope that the vast majority of you have already got this application for student finance underway, if that is indeed how you are funding your training. But if you haven't, I would urge you to get on with that as soon as you can, because that's a little bit of added stress that you don't need. I can recall, I know last year was a fairly incredible year in terms of things happening, but I can recall several trainees starting their PGCEs not actually knowing whether student finance were going to fund their courses. And that was quite a large cause of stress for quite a number of people. So please do contact Student Finance England if that's something that you need to do. Obviously, if you are self-funding the course, then that's entirely different. But if you are taking out a student loan or you intend to do that, please don't wait much longer for starting those applications. If you are a little worried about finances, if you have any particular financial queries, or you want to you want to speak to somebody about maybe financial support or anything like that, we do have a really useful department at the university called the Gateway. And if you go to the university website and you search for the Gateway, you'll actually bring up a whole page, a set of pages that's got lots of useful information on when it comes to finances. And you'll also find on there some contact details for speaking to people within that department. Now, they are much better at advising on financial matters than me and my colleagues are. So I would recommend speaking to them if there are any concerns that you might have about finances. And there are some different sources of support that you may well be entitled to, but obviously it's about having those conversations with the Gateway to find out if you are eligible for them. I mentioned bursaries, and I will pick up that strand of things, because there are some secondary subjects for postgraduate trainees, so for people doing PGCEs or school direct PGCEs, there are bursaries attached to certain subjects. So just so that I can articulate which those subjects are, the ones that currently are offering a bursary for September are physics, computer science, modern foreign languages, biology, chemistry, and I've missed one, colleagues. I've got 5 fingers there and there's a 6th one, and I'm just trying. Mathematics, did I say? I think that's my 6. I'm sure my colleagues will correct me if I've gone wrong there. But if you are studying or have applied to study one of those 6 subjects, you will be eligible, providing that you meet all of the criteria, you will be eligible for a training bursary. They aren't all the same amount. There are certain subjects that carry a greater bursary than some others. And so it is well worth, if you haven't had a conversation with your subject lead about bursaries, it might well be worth getting in touch with them just to ask what you are eligible for if you're not already certain. Hopefully you've had quite a lot of these conversations at interview, but if you aren't sure what bursary you might be entitled to, it is well worth contacting your subject lead. They will be able to tell you very quickly. There's a message in chat to say that you can't hear anything. Colleagues, are you able to hear my audio? Yeah. I apologise to the person that is not able to hear. It might be worth, and I don't know if Amy has any other advice, it might be worth leaving the meeting and coming back in. That sometimes fixes audio issues. Thank you for that advice as well. It might be that accepting computer audio on the way in might also solve that. So for the person that has said that they can't hear anything, try logging out and logging back in and seeing if there's an option for accepting the audio. Okay. So I hope you, please do drop a message into chat if you do come back and you can hear us again in a moment. Okay. Right, so I've put the details on that slide there about how to get in touch with the gateway. There is a direct phone number and a direct email address that I'll just leave on screen for a few moments there. So if anyone does have any financial queries, that would be where I would direct you to in the first instance. So please do contact them. They can give you some advice on anything to do with the financial side of university. Okay, so I'll just leave that up for a moment while I take a quick drink of water and then we'll move on. Okay, so moving on then, I want to talk now about conditions, because it is very rare that anybody comes onto an initial teacher training course as an unconditional person. Most people have at least one, if not a few, conditions to meet between getting their offer and starting the course. By far, one of the most common conditions that people have to meet is to present original certificates. Now, we've obviously had a very difficult and challenging period of time since March 2020. And since that time, obviously the country went into a national lockdown, as I'm sure I don't need to explain. What happened at that point was that our admissions department, and indeed many other departments around the university, were not able to see people with their original certificates in person. Now, the other problem that then presented was that people were sometimes having to send their certificates through the post, or were having to present them in a different way. I know admissions were doing some virtual verifications last year that was quite challenging and quite difficult. As I'm sure you're all very aware in the news at the moment, restrictions were somewhat eased on Monday of this week, and things have started to open up again. However, I am not yet aware that admissions have fully reopened to seeing people with their original certificates. That position may change at some point in the next coming days. And what I would suggest is that if you keep an eye on communications that are coming from admissions, they may well send out further guidance and advice on what to do with regards to showing your original certificates. You still have the facility to upload things to eVision. That facility is there, but admissions aren't able to verify those uploads until they have seen the originals that match them. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest to everybody in this room is that if you are concerned about your your certificate safety or anything like that, it might well be worth having a conversation with your subject lead. If you are happy to put your certificates in a recorded delivery and recorded post and send them to admissions, there is a dedicated admissions postal address that you should have hopefully been sent by now. So my advice would be, I can understand why people might be a little bit concerned about certificates. My advice would be to perhaps hang fire a little bit to see if any guidance comes out at the end of this week or early next week. If you haven't had any additional guidance from admissions to say that they are seeing people in person, you may unfortunately have no option but to put them in a recorded delivery, signed for post, and get them across to the admissions team so that they can be verified and then returned to you. So we just have to make sure that we've seen all of the original certificates that you've put on your application forms, and that is for Ofsted compliance, Department for Education compliance. Okay. So the proposal, as I said, it's a proposal at this stage about getting your certificates across. There may well be some further information communicated. It is likely that the July deadline that has been attached to most people's offers will probably be extended a little bit as admissions get through the backlog of processing of certificates and things. So what I would suggest is that as long as we have seen your certificates by the time that we get to kind of the end of August, before the course has begun, we shouldn't have a problem. Okay, so unfortunately, it will delay enrolment if we haven't seen these certificates. So we will have to address it at some stage, but I am aware that people might be a bit worried about putting their certificates in the post. Have a conversation with your subject lead if you are at all concerned. Okay. I'm just going to address some questions in the chat at this point, because I can see that there are some good ones here. Someone has asked, what if you've done your undergraduate at the University of Wolverhampton? Does admissions automatically get it? Bizarre as it might sound, they sometimes the systems don't talk to each other as well as you might think. There is certainly a system by where admissions can have a look to see if you have graduated from us, but they may still want to see the proof of the certificate that you've actually got. What I would suggest is that if that applies to anyone in here, if you are a Wolverhampton alumni, you might want to perhaps contact admissions to ask them if they require the site of your degree certificate, because it might be that they can just check that on the system. So I think if you are a graduate, just double check with admissions just to see, do you still need my degree certificate? They may say yes, they may say no. But I wouldn't like to say one way or the other at this stage, because sometimes the two systems don't often mash up and marry up. Okay. Another question in the chat, do you need to show GCSE and A-level certificates? The minimum requirement at the moment is for you need to show your GCSE English and Mathematics certificates. I would suggest if that you do have your A-level certificates, it is probably well worth them being verified as well, but certainly as a bare minimum, we would want to see your GCSE English and Mathematics. Okay, so hopefully that addresses that particular query in chat. Okay, I'm going to move on then to people who are awaiting graduation. I sincerely hope that there are a number of people in chat who are receiving some highly favourable results at the moment. I hope that as your universities communicate results to you, they are coming through and that you are pleased with them, and they are making their way to you. What I am very aware of is that graduations may well be still problematic for a lot of you. For instance, I know that our cohort that has just finished with us, they are not going to have their graduation ceremony until next July. We haven't yet graduated the class of 2020 yet, because of obvious issues. So I'm aware that some people may not have their degree certificate at the moment, which is fine. If you are awaiting a result that is not from us, so you are a non-University of Wolverhampton graduate, admissions have advised that ideally they would like an email to be sent from your graduating university to our admissions email address confirming your final degree award and classification. What they have said is that this should actually be sent from the university rather than sent to you first and then forwarded on. They will also accept a letter of award or classification on headed paper from the university that is posted to admissions. So there are a number of things that you could do in terms of getting your results across to our admissions team. My advice to you would be is that if you have recently received your degree result, you've recently received your transcript and your breakdown of your degree, etc., it might well be worth just contacting your university student services, whoever the equivalent is at your university, and just asking whether such a document could be forwarded to our admissions department, and that would probably negate the need for waiting for your degree certificate that might be delayed. I know that on our eVision system, we have the opportunity to download certificates virtually from there when they're available. I don't know whether such systems exist in other universities. So it is probably well worth contacting your awarding university just to see if there's something that they could do to help you out on this matter. Okay. Just another question in chat. I do apologise. Recorded deliveries is what I would consider to be delivery that is tracked. So you pay a slightly additional fee on top of your postage. You would do it at the post office. You take your envelope in, and you would ask for it to be sent first class recorded or first class signed for, because what that would then mean is that your certificates would have to be signed for at the other end when they're received at admissions, and you would be able to track the tracking number to see that they had arrived safely. And then what admissions would do is that they would send them back to you in a safe manner as well. So I hope that clears up that particular question in chat about recorded delivery. Okay. Right. The next thing I'd like to speak about is possibly not necessarily applying to a great deal of you. I've just seen the additional question in chat. I'll come back to that as soon as I've done this one, Amal, if that's all right. So this might not apply to many of you, but if you are in the chat room today and you're in this meeting today and you require a GCSE equivalency test, I would hope at this moment in time that you know about this, that you know that you need one. The people that need these are people who have either not got GCSE English or mathematics at the moment. You've been offered a place, you've accepted the place, but you don't currently have GCSE English or maths or both. Or it might have been that you studied in a different country and your qualifications were achieved living abroad outside of the UK, and that they have been deemed as to be not equivalent to our GCSE in this country. Okay, so like I said, this probably affects a small amount of people, but there may be some people in this room today who this applies to. So if you need to do an equivalency test, I would hope by now that someone will have contacted you with the details of this. If you haven't yet been contacted about this, and you know that you probably need one or both of the equivalence tests, please can you contact your subject lead as a matter of urgency, and me as well. If you can email me and your subject lead just to let us know this, because what I can then do is I can follow that up with the appropriate people here, because it might just be that something has kind of slipped through the net in terms of information that we need. And obviously sitting here on the 21st of July, we only have approximately 6 weeks between now and the start of our course. So, leaving it for another fortnight would only leave a month to get it sorted, and we need to really get on with these and get them sorted out. So if you have not yet been contacted about an equivalency test and you need one, please do contact your subject lead and myself. If someone said in chat, what if I'm awaiting my results? Hopefully that will be communicated to you soon. I would say, and I think this is your question, isn't it, Neve? If you want to contact your subject lead as well on this, just to find out what that result is, we can sort of forward the information onwards and see if admissions have received a result yet. But I'm fairly certain you should have been communicated with if you have taken the test already. So if you are waiting for one of these tests and you've got one coming up or pending as such, what I would suggest is that preparing yourself by taking the opportunity to use different revision materials online would be a really good way to start preparing for that. BBC Bite Size has got quite a lot of good resources on there that will sort of help to jog your memories a little bit when it comes to GCSE English and mathematics. Obviously, if there are any study books that you've got as well that might help you, that would be kind of a useful thing to do. So hopefully, if you do have one of those tests pending, you know, good luck with it. Neve, Debbie has put a very helpful comment in chat there to say, if you can go to Debbie's breakout room at the end of my bit, Debbie knows quite a good deal about the equivalence tests, especially for English. So thank you for picking that conversation up, Debbie. That's really useful. Just to go back a little bit, someone asked the question, I think it was Amal, do you know what the mailing address is that we'd have to send it to? I don't know it off the top of my head, but what I can do is put it into the chat in a little while when I've finished talking. So if I make a quick note to myself just to give you the admissions postal address, I will certainly do that. Amy, if you're still there and listening, I don't know if that's something that you could also pull quite quickly down from our website. If that was possible to pop that into chat, that would be really useful. So okay, so the conditions that I've spoken about so far are the main ones that tend to hold things up. I'm going to come on to DBS and occupational health in a moment, but if you do have any further questions around the conditions of your offer, please do contact us. You know, speak to us, you know, tell us what the issues and the problems are. If we know what they are, we can obviously direct you through to the appropriate people. Okay, so that's the main section about conditions in there. So I'm going to now move on to talking about the DBS and the occupational health forms. Again, this tends to be an area of conditions meeting that can cause some unwanted hold-ups. And quite often the hold-ups are caused simply by people not really being terribly sure at what stage they ought to be at with doing things. Sometimes we do have offers held up as well because people haven't received forms and they haven't received links to fill things in. And because you don't know you need it, you've not told us that you've not had them. So I'm telling everybody now in this chat, and hopefully everybody watching the recording back, every single person that is coming onto one of our teacher training courses in September will need an enhanced DBS check and an occupational health form returned. Okay, so my hope is that the departments within our university are working efficiently, and that at some point soon you should receive some links to enable you to fill in both of those documents. Now, the DBS is a little bit more involved than the occupational health because you have to go through various stages of the DBS, such as presenting some identification at a post office. So what I would urge is that if you haven't yet been sent the link, it will be hopefully sent very soon. When you get the link to do your DBS, you need to have to get on with that as quickly as you possibly can. There is a fee involved with the DBS. I believe it's £50 or thereabouts, and you will need to at some point pay the fee, start the process online, attend the post office when it prompts you to do so, and then the form will then be sent off and will hopefully come back to you a couple of weeks later with your DBS certificate. If we don't have that DBS certificate in place, we cannot allow you to go into school. Okay, it is quite serious on that score. So please don't sit on the DBS form process. Once you are prompted to do it, try and get it done as soon as you possibly can. Okay. Occupational health is another one. Now that one's a little more straightforward in that you just have to fill in a form and then return it to, there's probably an email address or an upload that you need to do with it. It will give you full instructions on the form as to how to return it to us. But that again is something that we need to make sure everybody that is coming onto one of our courses is fit to teach. And so again, it's another process that needs to happen fairly rapidly. It's not quite as involved as a DBS, but again, once the link comes to you and the prompt comes to you to fill this form in, please get it done as soon as you can, because what we don't want to be doing is starting September having to chase through all of these bits and pieces of paperwork. Thank you, Amy, for what you've put in chat there. Yeah, it's usually up to 2 weeks once the process is completed So, you know, once you get on with it and once you've been sent the link to do it, hopefully you should have those back in a quick time. Just going to quickly nip through the chat before I move on to the some other things on that slide there. Thank you for Amy for putting the admissions address on. That's really helpful. Thank you very much for that. Was that Amy who did that? Yes, it was. Okay, when do you need to complete the ski by? Now that very much depends on what you've agreed and with whom. Most of the people that are doing subject knowledge enhancement courses, for those of you who don't know what a ski is, for anyone that is doing subject knowledge enhancement courses, the chances are most of those are currently underway, and certainly the ones that we are running will all be finished by the end of August. So as long as you have completed your ski by the end of August, that's absolutely fine. You can do skis alongside your PGCE. So if you did happen to start yours late, you can continue it, but you must complete it, and you will stop receiving the bursary for it as well when the PGCE bursary kicks in for those that are doing it. So hopefully, Melissa, if you have completed the ski by the time we get to the end of August, that will be absolutely fine. And your provider, are you with us, by the way? I'm not quite sure if you are, but if you are with us, we will be able to sort that condition lifting out very quickly. If you're not with us, someone will contact us to tell us that you've completed. Okay. Right, let's have a look here. I'm not sure if you have the answer to the question. I've met all the entry requirements for my conditional offer. Should change from applicant to student. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Bill. If you can just pick that particular query up, I'm assuming Amal is one of your trainees, so that's brilliant. If you pick that up, and if there's anything else that I need to follow up, do let me know on that one afterwards. Okay. Again, I've got a little bit more info here underneath the part about DBS and occupational health. Again, this is a little condition that might only apply to a small amount of you, but it's worth knowing just in case. So if you became a UK resident after the age of 10, so i.e. you were living outside of the UK after your 10th birthday, you will also need what we call an in-country DBS, or an international certificate of good character. Okay. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because I've done numerous interviews over the year with various people who were completely unaware of this requirement. And to be fair, we were unaware of this requirement until about 3 years ago. But what you require, if you move to the UK above the age of 10, you're going to need an international certificate of good character to cover the period of time where you were living in that different country between the ages of 10 and whatever age it was when you arrived in the UK. So even if it was like a year, if you moved to the UK when you were 11, you're still going to need a document from the country that you lived in between 10 and 11. Again, hopefully, if you need this or you fall into this bracket, you will have had a conversation about this already. But I can understand if you hadn't, because, you know, there are a number of additional colleagues, new colleagues joining the university this year who may not be fully aware of this. If you are at all concerned that you fall into this bracket and that you haven't yet done anything about this, can I urge you again to contact me and your subject lead as a matter of urgency so that I can direct you in the right way. They're quite straightforward to get in most cases, but there are some countries that take a bit longer than others. So again, speak to us if you need to, if that applies to you. Okay, so we've talked about international checks, and you're going to contact us if you need to. I'm now just going to briefly talk about school attachments. Again, this is another question that often gets asked when I do marketing and recruitment events. And hopefully most of you know this by now, but you will do on the PGCE and School Direct PGCE route, you will do at least two attachments. Okay, so your first attachment will be between the months of September and December, and that will be approximately 36 days. I've said there, it'll be around about 4 days a week. And you'll do that starting at the end of September and going right the way through until mid-December. You'll then usually change schools and you will go to a different school. Now, if you're on a PGCE, you will change schools in January and you will stay there right the way through until May, June time, approximately 72 days. If you're doing a school direct tuition route, you will go to a different school for a period of about 6 weeks, and then you will go back to the school that you were in before, in between January and December. Okay, so I've broken down the days and the approximate amount of days. What I would say is don't hold us to those exact numbers. They are very much approximations, because obviously each year the dates and things don't quite align as they would in a different year. So that is an approximation of the number of days that you will do and where you'll be attached to. If you are a salaried trainee or you are an apprentice, you are going to be a lot longer in schools because you're effectively employed by the lead school that you're in. So you will spend much longer there, and you will have very much a reduced amount of contact with us at the university. So that hopefully explains through the differences between the placements and the routes that you're on if you are on the postgraduate route. I don't know how many people are on the undergraduate route in this room today, but if you are going to be taking up an undergraduate degree with QTS, you will do a similar amount of days, but instead they're going to be spread over 3 years rather than 1 year. So if you're on the QTS route undergraduate, you'll start off with a 6-day taster attachment in year 1. You'll then do your first attachment in a school in the second semester of year 2, and that's approximately 40 days. And then you'll do a longer attachment in semester 2 of year 3 that will be approximately 80 days, and that will be in a different school from either of the first 2 that you've been in. Okay, so hopefully that explains a little bit of the differences between the different attachments. A good, very pertinent question in the chat about primary school. We weren't able to facilitate a week in a primary school in the year just gone because we were in a situation of the schools were all closed again around that time. We normally do this in the January of your year. Now, without consulting with all of my colleagues in the department, I think we're all hopeful that the primary attachment will be able to go ahead as planned this year. We have everything crossed, Kaylee, that everything can go ahead as we want it to this year, rather than having to sort of find alternative arrangements. So our plan at the moment is absolutely that we would like to send all of our secondary trainees for a week in a primary school in January. We have to caveat everything at the moment with as long as everything stays okay. But that is certainly the plan. So hopefully that answers that particular question. Just coming towards the end of what I've got to say now, I want to just briefly talk about study time and holidays. So you are, for those of you that are studying the PGCE in particular, this is very much a full-time course. When we start with you in September, we are going to start working with you very, very intensively, 5 days a week. And we are working with you basically from the first week of September right up until about the 3rd week of June. In some cases, maybe even a little longer than that if needs be. This is a full-time course that requires a lot of commitment and a lot of investment of time. You will have an incredible amount of time invested in you by my colleagues that are with me in this chat today, and also the colleagues that you are working with if they aren't here today. They will invest an awful lot of time, and what we expect back is a similar, if not a slightly more commitment from you. Attendance in the classroom, attendance at campus are quite strictly monitored. You know, we expect you to be with us on campus when we need you. We expect you to be in school when you're expected to be in school. Okay. There will not really be certain days available across the week where you will have days off, if anything like that. There isn't really any such thing as a day off. I will mention sort of school holidays in a moment, but there aren't really any days off in this course. It's an intensive 10-month course where we're trying to cram about 2 years worth of tuition into a very short amount of time. You will have advance notice of when your timetable taught sessions are. So when you're going to be on campus, when you're going to be in school, we will give you all of that information in advance, and you'll probably receive a very detailed calendar of sessions from your subject leader in the first day or two of the course. Okay, so you will see when you are required to be with us and when you are required to be in school. The exceptions, if there are any, are where you may have some certain pockets of time that coincide with the school holidays. Okay, so for those of you that are familiar with school holidays, you will know already that there is an October half term, there is a fortnight at Christmas time, December, January. There is a week's holiday in February, half term. There's 2 weeks at Easter, and there's a week at Whitsun in May. Now, whilst we don't necessarily direct people to come into campus during those half term and fortnightly holidays, there will be other expectations. We often have assignments that are due that coincide with a lot of those times. And of course, there will still be planning and preparation to do whilst you're out on school placement. So I'm going to give you some very solid advice right now, and you can choose to do whatever you like with this advice, but I would urge you to take it. Please be very wary about booking. I know booking holidays is a bit of a non-starter at the moment, but soon it won't be. I would advise anyone to think very carefully before booking holidays in any of the holiday periods that I have mentioned. You might just about get away with perhaps doing something at Christmas or Easter, but even so, you will still have things to do over those 2 periods of time. Okay, so as hard as it might be to put holiday plans on hold for a bit, my advice to you would be to do so. There will probably, providing everything goes well, an opportunity to maybe take a holiday early July, late June, early July. Once everything is done and dusted, you might well be able to get away for a break then. But the problem that we've had in the past is if someone has booked, say, a holiday in October half term and like disappears on the Saturday and doesn't come back till the following Sunday, that leaves you with a very, very difficult amount of time to try and squeeze any planning that you might need to do, any preparation you might need to do, etc. So I think if you can at all manage it, I'm not going to direct your life for you for 10 months. Far be it from me to do this. But I would suggest that, if you have to get away and do some bits and pieces of rest and relaxation, maybe getting away for a couple of nights here and there, or a night here and there, would be probably a better solution than, zipping off to Ibiza for a week in October. So I think just bear that advice in mind, folks. It's not an easy thing to tell you to do, but seriously, I think by the time you get to the end of your PGCE, you will appreciate that advice. And Debbie is absolutely spot on. The only other time that we get usually to have tutorials with you when you're out teaching in schools is during those half-term periods. So, do make sure that you communicate with your subject leads if there are any holidays or anything like that that might well clash with those periods, just so that we can be aware of them. No, we don't usually do things at weekends. That is your time to kind of get a little bit of a recharge of the batteries on a Saturday, especially. Yes, have some sleep, absolutely. And then obviously your Sundays, you're probably going to be back into planning mode again at some point on that Sunday. So no, we don't usually expect anything of you at a weekend, but thank you for asking. So I've mentioned holidays, we've talked about that. Yeah, so obviously if there are things that you still feel that you want to chat through with your subject leads, please do contact them. You should have their contact details already, I would assume. If you haven't got your subject lead's email address, or you're not sure who it is, for example, scientists you might be in a little bit of limbo at the moment. You might not be terribly sure who to contact. We are in the process of inducting some new members of our team at the moment, and science is one of those areas that is, we have some new colleagues starting. So any scientists in the room, if you've got any questions or queries, direct them to me, please, and I will sort them from there. Okay. If there's anything that I can assist with, email me. If there's anything that you think is beyond our remit, it's a little bit wider than our subject areas or our areas of expertise, there is a general enquiries at email address that's on the screen there. That's where I would direct anything else, anything that you don't think we could handle. Okay. Right. I'm very wary of time. I've gone perhaps about 7 minutes ahead of what I wanted to do, so I'm going to try and be brief with this. But I just want to talk very quickly about the pre-course task. So anybody that is holding a firm offer with us should have either already or should be very shortly receiving some pre-course information. So you should be receiving a written task to do that we would like you to do. A placement information and partnership agreement, and an overview of key dates for people doing a PGCE or a school direct tuition PGCE. Okay. You should also receive a welcome letter as well from our head of secondary education, Tracy Wallace. So I'll deal with the easiest one straight away. The partnership agreement is a form that just needs to be completed. That just makes you aware of your obligations and responsibilities when you are in schools and out in school placements. When you've received that, it just needs to be filled in, signed, and returned to the email address that is currently on the screen. It is also on the form, but that's the email address that it's got to go to. It's few external partnerships at. Okay, so when you've got that form, when you receive it, fill it in, send it back to there. It will be received and in the system. Okay. The overview of key dates is well worth reading, printing, sticking on your wall, making sure you've got a good copy of it, because that will give you all of the key dates of the year. So please do have a read through of that very carefully. And then the other thing that you'll be sent is the pre-course written task, okay, which looks a little bit like this. It will have the header there in the box. And it's the writing activity is called My Journey to Becoming a Teacher of My Subject. Okay. And you will see there that it says you are required to address at least 3 of these questions, and you are advised to aim for depth of response rather than superficial coverage. So what we would prefer is that you choose 3 of those bullet pointed questions there. I'm not going to read them to you because you can all read. Choose 3 of those and write a response to each of those questions. Okay, so if you were to take 3, I would suggest that you're going to probably want to use about 300-ish words for each question, 333 if we were going to be really exact. So you've got the 5 questions there, you choose 3 of them to answer. And here's the assessment criteria and what it means. It's, the task will have been addressed conscientiously, it's clearly structured, well expressed, well presented, word processed, largely free of errors, evidence of reflection and ability to consider the issues. Essentially, the reason why we're doing this, and I'm sure my colleagues will also talk to your trainees about this, the reason we're doing this is because we want to know early on if there is anybody that needs some additional support with writing. Okay, we'd like to see what your writing style is like. We'd like to be able to support you because we appreciate that this is a bit of a jump into master's level writing. You are going from your undergraduates, for most of you, into your postgraduate, moving from level 6 to level 7. And we want to be able to support everybody to be able to write at that slightly higher master's level. Okay, so if you've already done something like this for K, if you are a history or a geography person, you might well have already received this. So yes, that's fine. You won't need to do another one, Kylie. So when you've written it, it's not going to be graded as such. It's not going to be formally graded. We are going to read them. We're going to look through them to see if there's anything that we need to do to support you. So what we would like is, please, if you either email it to your subject tutor before you start, or bring it on the first day. Either of those is fine. If you want to email it in advance, that would be helpful because we can have a look at them before you begin. And as it says, the guidance on length is no more than 1,000 words for the whole thing. Okay, I will show the questions again. They're just on the on this slide here. You will receive a very concise document with all of this on, Amal. Literally, I have copied and pasted this off the document that you will receive. So you will get all 5 of these prompt questions ahead of writing it. Okay. So I'll just leave those up for a couple of moments more just before I conclude. Hopefully that's okay for everyone. Finally, from me, before I hand over to my colleagues into the breakout rooms, the start date of your programs, if you are doing a PGCE or a school direct PGCE, your first day is going to be Thursday, the 2nd of September. Okay, we're advising everybody on the 2nd of September, if that applies to you, to arrive at Walsall campus by 9:30 in the morning on that 2nd of September, ready for our sessions to commence at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, that will enable you to get parked, find your bearings, make your way into the middle of Walsall campus and just sort of work out what's what. The chance to go and grab a cup of tea or coffee or a drink, anything you need. And then there will be some staff on hand around and about on campus that will direct you to the teaching rooms that you'll be allocated to. You should receive in advance of the first day a timetable information so that you know which rooms that you're going to be heading for. So there should be people on hand to direct you to those rooms. And then we will be beginning your course at 10 o'clock on that morning. If you are undergraduates and you're coming into year 1, you will be contacted separately for a welcome meeting around the end of September, early October, and that will be once your program has commenced. So once you've enrolled, you've commenced your program, you've met your sort of subject tutors and what have you, you will then be invited to a welcome meeting for the undergraduate QTS people only. And at that point, you'll be able to meet the undergraduate team, you'll meet the undergraduate lead, and we will obviously be able to talk to you then about how the course is going to run for you in year 1. I'm going to conclude there and stop talking for a moment because I can feel my throat tightening up slightly and I need to have a drink. I'm going to leave my contact details on there. What we're now going to do is that English trainees are hopefully in a moment going to be able to make their way to Debbie's breakout room. Psychology and social science trainees, you will hopefully be able to make your way to Bill's breakout room. Everybody else, please stay where you are. And what I will do is I will take any questions either in the chat or if, Amy, I'm not sure if people can ask them on their microphones. I can also have, that can happen as well. But all I'd like to just say before we conclude, because you won't be coming back to this room after your breakout room. Oh, thank you, Debbie. Yeah, so drama people, feel free to go to Debbie's room as well. That'd be wonderful. Thank you. All that I would like to say to you all is thank you so much for attending this evening. It's really a sort of a show of your dedication and your enthusiasm about the course that you're embarking upon, that you have given up a couple of hours of your time this evening to come along and meet with us. Please don't be a stranger over the next few weeks. Even though colleagues might be on various bits and pieces of leave and study leave over the course of the next few weeks, we will be in and around university and doing university work over that time. Do contact us if there's anything that's worrying you, troubling you, you're not sure on something. Do contact us. My email address is there. You know, we're really excited to have you all back. We've gone 18 months nearly without doing things normally. We're so excited about having you all on campus in September. So I hope that you're really excited about starting your journey as well. All that's left for me to say is enjoy the remainder of your summer. Get some rest. You're going to need it. September's going to be busy. It's going to be intense. But I'm really looking forward to welcoming you all formally on the 2nd of September. So English, drama, social sciences, psychology people, thank you very much. enjoy your breakout meetings with Debbie and Bill, and everybody else. We will continue in just a moment. So thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, the breakout rooms are open now. So at the bottom of the screen, you should be able to see the 3 dots that say more, and there's an option for breakout rooms, and you'll be able to choose which breakout room you would like to attend. If you've got any problems accessing one of the breakout rooms, if you just pop it in the chat and I can move you manually.
Okay, so just before we continue on, and as I said, this is going to be a fairly fluid time for the next sort of however long you want me to be here for, really. I'm just going to check, is there anybody else in here that should be in a breakout room? So really, if you're English, drama, psychology, social sciences, hopefully they have all gone to their appropriate places. I'm now going to make the assumption that everybody that is still here are one of the other subjects. And as I said, I do recognize a couple of names on the screen, so nice to see people again. I am here now to at your disposal as such for however long you would like me to talk to you for. You know, as I'm sure you've already discovered, I am quite verbose. I can talk as long as you want me to, but I don't want to keep you here against your will. So if you do have any questions that you'd like to raise verbally, I'm sure that you can unmute yourself and speak to me. That would be lovely. If you would prefer not to speak in such a public forum and you'd like to put questions in chat, please feel free to go ahead and do so. But I don't have any sort of further information to share at the moment unless I answer questions. So what we'll probably do is wait to see if anyone has anything to ask. Once that period of time has come to an end, we will, you are free to enjoy the remainder of your Wednesday evening. So anybody got anything that they would like to ask of me at the moment? Okay, thank you, Kaylee, for the question in chat. I'll pick that up. What will happen is that once all of your conditions have been met, excuse me, you will move from conditional firm to unconditional firm. What that will essentially mean is that will open up the enrollment task. Okay, so you can't enroll whilst you are still conditional. So once you become unconditional and everything has been met, so you've got your certificates have been shown, your DBS has come back, your occupational health form has gone in and been accepted. Once all of those things have done, and it might even be that they will move you to unconditional once the DBS has come back. Actually, it might be that they don't tend to wait necessarily for the occupational health. The enrollment task will open up on eVision, and you'll be able to get so far through it, and then there will probably reach a point where you have to identify yourself. So you will be able to enroll to a point, and then you may well need to show some identification. That's how it has worked in the past. I'm not sure under the current restrictions how our sort of enrollment and admissions team are playing this one. But certainly when the enrollment task opens, it should just be a case of following it through, saying, yes, I accept these terms and conditions, blah, 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 get to the end. And then it'll either say you are now enrolled, or it will stop and say you now need to do X, Y, or Z. Okay, so that will happen at some point once you move to unconditional. Okay, so hopefully that answers that particular question, Kaylee. Let's move to the next one. Do please say so if you don't feel I've answered it correctly as well, because obviously it's a bit of a one-way street at the moment. So can I please confirm, if we are University of Wolverhampton undergrads and don't have our degree certificate, what do we need to do about notifying people about our degree results? Right, what I would suggest, Emma, is to send admissions an email with your student number on it. Explain to them the situation, that you are a 2021 graduate, that you have hopefully you've received your results by now. You've received your results, you've received your degree confirmation, but you haven't yet got your degree certificate. What do they need to do in order to verify your result? Because what they will either do is say to you, don't worry, Emma, that's fine, we've got it under control, or they'll say, can you please do this, this and this? Because I don't work in admissions, I don't know what it is that they want. So can I just ask you to do that for me and just contact admissions, send them an email and see what comes back. The other way, the other avenue, if you're not worried, sort of thinking the email might not work terribly well, there is also a help desk option in eVision. I don't know if any of you know this, if you've seen it. There's a help desk option in eVision where you can actually raise a query like that. And often you find that actually eVision help desks get answered a little quicker than the emails. Okay, so that's what I would personally do, Emma, if that's okay in answer to that one. Okay. Melissa, how much study time outside of university would you recommend? Oh, lots. No, I mean, essentially, your time outside of university, it might feel a little bit slow to start with. And what I mean by that is that September, you're going to be spending a lot of time with us, with me and my colleagues, your subject leads, and we're going to be doing an awful lot of sessions with you during the daytime. And we might give you certain bits and pieces of reading to be doing in preparation for upcoming sessions. We might give you follow-up reading to do outside of the sessions that we've done with you. And it might feel a little bit like you're being lured into a false sense of security during September, because let me tell you that as soon as you start going into school, work intensifies. And all of a sudden you'll reach the point in sort of mid-October that you'll think to yourself, gosh, all that time that I had there, got none now. So my advice would be is that there are some key texts that also will have been put in the letter that you'll receive, the pre-course letter. There is a key text called Learning and Teaching in Secondary Schools by an author called Viv Ellis. Whilst I'm not advocating going and reading the whole book cover to cover, you can do if you so wish, but it is certainly a good book to dip in and out of. It's quite an expensive book, I have to say, as education books tend to be. You know, I think it's somewhere in the region of £20 to £25 for this book, so it isn't cheap, I appreciate. If you're a member of the university already, I think you can obtain it as an ebook from the library. It is well worth dipping in and out of various chapters of that. So how much study time outside of university would you recommend? You won't have to worry about that question in a few weeks' time, Melissa. But if you're thinking about things to be doing on the run-up and perhaps during September, the Ellis book is a good one. And I don't mind in a bit putting in the chat the actual full author and title of the book, just in case. Okay. Okay, really good question, Kaylee. Does the DBS get sent to the uni, or do we need to show a copy? Because you're doing your DBS through the university system, when the DBS comes back, we will be notified that it has come back. We don't get a copy of your certificate, you get the copy of the certificate, but we receive a copy of your number. Okay, so you don't need to provide that to us unless you get expressly asked for it. Okay, so hopefully that addresses that one. Just going to take another drink of water because, as you can hear, my voice is failing. Okay. Right. Question from Stephen. If your GCSE and certificate, A-level certificates were countersigned by someone already and uploaded, do they need to be sent again, or will those be fine? I think, Stephen, the answer to that is probably that they should be fine. It might well be worth, though, me returning to the advice that I think I was giving to Emma which is it might well be worth raising a help desk query on it. Just again, raise the help desk query, explain what you've just said to me, and just double check that they don't need to see them again. If they've already been signed and countersigned, I can't see why they would need that, but it's worth checking. Okay, so hopefully that's fine. Right, what else do we have here? So Kylie, will all uni days begin at 9:30 or will there be 9 AM after the initial first day? Okay, the only reason we're starting at 9:30 on the first day is because we're aware that there will be many of you who will have never set foot on Walsall campus ever before. Pretty much everybody in this cohort have been interviewed virtually. The only people who haven't been interviewed virtually, to my mind, are returning students who are coming back having taken a leave of absence. So we are very aware that people need a little bit of a chance to get their bearings. And to be fair, trying to get your bearings at 8 o'clock in the morning is a bit tricky. People need time to get settled, parked, through the traffic, etc. So we are starting 9:30 on day one. All of the remaining days will start at 9. Okay, so I appreciate that that's a bit of a struggle on public transport. But hopefully you'll be able to work something out with school to ensure that your childcare is not going to cause you an enormous problem. It's probably worth having a conversation with your subject lead, Kylie. I'm assuming Kay is your subject lead. It might well be worth having a conversation with Kay just to kind of put her in the picture. She won't be able to do anything about changing the starting time, but certainly if we've got more information, we can be appreciative of everyone's individual needs. Okay, so hopefully that's okay. So thank you, that's great. Melissa's done a bit of is that a scary face? Like, oh, yeah, don't worry, it's not scary, it's fine. Stephen, when filling in the bursary form, there is a section for the bursary details and one of the boxes is academic period. Okay, that probably refers to the length of time that you will be having your bursary. So I would say the easiest thing to put in there is September to June, okay? Because that's the duration of the course. So September to June, 2021 to 2022, all right? So that should cover that. If there's any queries, the finance people will come back to you anyway. So yeah. Okay, hopefully that's answered that. Brilliant, thank you. Okay, on the topic of bursary forms, when do these need to be handed in to get paid on time? Yeah, you're waiting on a scholarship. Okay, right. What I would suggest is that you, even if you get, okay, I'm going to try and think here to get the right answer. My understanding is that the bursary is administered by us as well. The scholarship. I'm saying this, and I'm doubting myself. I have a feeling that we will be paid the scholarship money to the university so that we can distribute it. I don't think the learned societies handle the payments themselves, but I could be wrong. Okay, so can I ask you a favour, Kaylee? I'm doubting my answer on this one. I want to double check it because I don't want to give the wrong answer. Okay, great question though, really good one. What I would suggest is to belt and braces, send your bursary forms in as soon as you possibly can. In order to pay the first instalment, because I'm hopeful that everyone's aware that if you are entitled to a bursary, you'll get it paid a month in arrears. So when we start the course on the 2nd of September, your first bursary payment should land the first week of October. Okay, so it'll be a month after you've begun. So in order to pay you on time, my understanding is that we have to have received your bursary forms by the 15th of the month. So my advice would be to get your bursary form in at least by the end of the first week on the course. Yeah, so by the 3rd of September. Because if you delay any longer than that, it might be that you miss the first payment, and that wouldn't be great. Just so that you're all aware, I don't know how many of you in this room are entitled to a training bursary. There might only be a handful of you. You have to confirm your attendance every month on eVision for those of you that are going to get a bursary. So every month at there's a window of opportunity. There's like like 4 or 5 days where you go on to eVision, you confirm your continued attendance. That is then verified by your subject lead. And obviously if the subject lead says, yeah, I agree, they're all attending, you will get your payment released for the next payment run. Okay. So that's just something to bear in mind, because a lot of people forgot to confirm their September attendance, and were all kicking off at us when they didn't get their October money. And we were like, well, did you confirm your attendance on eVision? No. Oh. So someone should remind everyone to do this, but I'm telling you all because you're all here. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So that was great. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Yeah. So wait to hear from RSC, then hand in Bursary. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the way to go about it, Kaylee's. Wait until they confirm scholarship or not, and I hope you get it. If they don't confirm scholarship, hand the bursary form in as soon as you've heard, or a little while after you've heard, and get it in just, that first week of September when we start the course is probably my advice. Amy, what times do uni days tend to finish? Okay, so we timetable between 9 and 4 every day. Okay, now that's not necessarily to say that you'll be there until 4 o'clock every day. It might be that there are some days where we either conclude the sessions a little earlier, so that we might be done for say 3:30, 3:15, or it might be that we've got some directed work that we'd like you to go away and have a look at, and it might be the most sensible thing to do to say, right, go now, go and carry on with the rest of your day and do that directed work in a time to suit you. But generally speaking, expect to be on campus between 9 o'clock and 4 o'clock. There's an hour in the middle of the day for lunch. So our sessions run 9 till 11, 11 till 1, and 2 till 4. So you'll have that 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock break on campus to get some lunch and to generally catch up with your colleagues and your friends. Okay. I think that's taken me to the end of the chat. But obviously, thank you so much for all of the questions. I hope I've been able to answer them sufficiently well. Apart from that one about the scholarship, which I've totally second guessed myself on that one. Is there anything else that anyone would like to share with me whilst I'm just sort of dithering on a little bit? I'm going to give you the name of that book. You can ask that. I don't know if he will respond, but you can ask that. There we go. So we have some people known to people. That's good. So we have learning and teaching in the secondary school. Okay, so I've just popped in the chat the book that I was referring to, which is a fairly important text. You'll find it on Amazon. My advice, if you can possibly unearth a copy, is there may well be quite a few people who've done a PGCE who might be flogging their books at the moment. So have a look at the second-hand marketplaces, because do you know what? If it's only been used for a year, it'll probably still be in quite good nick. Yeah, great shout, Amy. Off Goodreads for £5 used. People will have thumbed through it to different chapters, and it will still be in fairly good condition, I would imagine. So do search on the marketplaces. Have a look to see if Abe books are also good as well. I've used them for secondhand books before. See what's about there. So sometimes you don't need to spend 20 odd quid on a book. See what you can find. But good call, Amy. Kaylee, your question there. Are you split up into subjects for on-campus teaching or activities? In the main, yes. Okay, I'm going to say something here that is possibly a little bit steeped in my opinion based on what's currently going on. I honestly can't see at the moment a return to whole cohort lecture theatre style sessions. Okay, and the reasons for that are fairly obvious. I will caveat them and say that they are my opinion based on what I'm seeing. But I can't see how if we're still trying to operate in a fairly safe environment, loading the better part of 200 people from all sorts of different places and you know, areas of the West Midlands into a lecture theatre where there is literally no room to move, that doesn't seem very sensible to me. So I can't see a situation where we will, you know, certainly in the first few months, I can't see a situation where we will ever go back to a whole cohort lecture in the lecture theatre. What we will be doing instead is beaming stuff into your subject rooms. So if there is a whole cohort session, you'll be in your subject group and your subject room, but you may well be with your tutor tuning in to a lecture that's going on centrally, you know. So it might be that I'm giving a lecture to everybody, and I will be giving the lecture live in my teaching room, and everybody else will be beamed into it, if you like. So that is something that will happen quite a lot. You will obviously be working quite closely with your other subject colleagues. That will happen a lot, and you'll be in sort of timetabled rooms with them and with your tutors. So there might well be, and this is also picking up Melissa's point, there might well also be certain situations. Sorry, there's someone I just need to admit to the waiting from the waiting room. I'll just admit that. There might also be certain situations where it is sensible to do certain days completely virtually. You know, so there might well be a time where we say to you, on this date here, you don't need to come in physically to campus, but you do need to be available online. Okay, but we will communicate that with you quite a distance in advance of that session happening. So hopefully I've answered Kaylee's question about splitting. Fridays, I would say, Melissa, are going to be a mixture. There will be some online days, there will be some campus days. So yeah, that will happen. Are you only able to fill out bursary forms after enrolment? Good question. I don't know. I don't know. Have a look in your eVision at your tasks and see if there is anything in there that relates at all to filling in a bursary form. What I can do off the back of this meeting is I will contact the student finance person who deals with bursaries and other things like that, and I will ask her if they have been made available to everybody, and if not, when. So hopefully by me doing that, that will either prompt someone to do something, or actually they might already have been sent. But do have a look and contact me or your subject lead if you just want to double check it. Okay. Great, so that's that one. Amy, you've asked a question about placements. Yeah, it does very much vary on school to school. I'll tell you some extremes. There's a school not a million miles away from where I live, where their school day begins, and I mean begins for the children, at 8:10 in the morning. And if anybody around the room is raising an eyebrow, yes, I also raised one, because I had to go in there and do a school visit, and I needed to be in the school physically for 7:30 in the morning. And I was just like, this is crazy. But anyway, that's the way that they operate. Their first period was 8:10 in the morning. And what they did is they did a lesson until about 9, and then everybody went for breakfast. I was like, this is bizarre. And then we carried on with the lesson after breakfast. So I actually had to go with the class and the class teacher and my trainee to breakfast, because that was the done thing. We all went to the canteen, and I sat and I had a cup of tea with all the children having their breakfast, and then we went back and carried on the lesson observation. It was totally bizarre, but that was the way it was. So that's a bit of an anecdote. The honest answer to the question is that until you are allocated a school, I probably can't answer this for you. You'll know where your schools are going to be as soon as they've been confirmed in September, as soon as they can do. And once you know where you're going, you can start doing your research. The rule of thumb for me is that if the school day begins at 9, really you want to be there no later than 8:30. I mean, to be honest, 8:30 would be pushing it as well, especially if you drive. The school I used to work at before I came to the university, if you weren't at school for 8:20 in the morning, you weren't parking. You know, there weren't enough parking spaces for all the cars that were coming to school every day. So if you weren't at school for 8:20, you were having to take your chances on the road, or you're having to park miles away from the school entrance, and that was a pain. So I think to conclude that point, when you know which school you're at, have a look at their first lesson start time or registration time, because that'll be important for us. Have a look at registration time, work back from there, and also work back in terms of your journey, because you've got to factor in morning traffic, you've got to factor in getting to the school and parking and all that. And you don't want to be flapping and rushing about at the start of a school day, especially if you're teaching period 1 or you've got to take a registration first thing. You want to have a nice ease into your day, perhaps get yourself a drink, make sure all your resources are sorted and what have you, and then start your day. And you know, it's just about being sensible, I suppose, when it comes to your arrival times. People who are on public transport, please make sure your subject leads know that you're on public transport. I know not everyone drives. I know not everyone has the luxury of a car to use. If you're on public transport, tell your subject lead so that they can sort a school that is on a suitable bus route for you or a transport route for you. It's certainly a question that I ask of all of my trainees, to make sure that I know where you're all, you know, what your circumstances are. But please do communicate that with your subject leaders. Okay. Super. How are we doing in terms of questions, folks? Because obviously I'm still more than happy to continue fielding anything that you might want to ask. But if everyone feels that you've had your questions answered satisfactorily, that's brilliant news. I can see that English's room seems to have concluded, by the looks of things. Psychology, social sciences still seem to be going. So I'm happy to remain for a little bit longer if you are. But psychology, social sciences is just coming to an end by the looks of it. So that's good. If anybody else has got anything further that you'd like to ask me, I'm going to say it's 5:30. Shall we say I'll give it 5 more minutes and then I'll bid you all a fond farewell until September. Okay, so I will hang on a little bit longer. But thank you for everyone for coming along. I'm glad people have found this a useful thing to do. You know, I just think it answers some of those burning questions, doesn't it? You know, those things that are maybe troubling us as we approach the summer. Get those out of the way so that you can enjoy your summer, whatever's left of it, and start, you know, a flying start in September. So you know, you're all very welcome for the advice that we've had. Yes, Kaylee, a very good point. If in actual fact, if you want to drop me an email, I'll put my email address in the chat again. I've got no problem doing that. But if you want to drop me an email, tell me that, just so that I can forward that to the new appointed members of staff who are going to be looking after you, because they haven't yet started, so I haven't got anyone to pass it on to yet. But if it's in my inbox, it means that it will stay sat in my inbox until such time as I can forward it on. Does that make sense? Super. Wonderful. It's been lovely to meet so many of you, albeit virtually. And as I say, there are a few people whose names I recognise, so it's nice to see you again. Yeah, if you have no further questions for me, you are very welcome to exit the meeting at this time. And yeah, absolutely, see you all in September. So take care, everybody. Bill's ringing me for some reason, so I'll speak to Bill in just a moment. Yeah, see you in September. Have a really good few weeks, and do please get in touch with us if there's anything else you need. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.